Hello everybody, it's Brian for GadgetUnit.com, and in this video I'll be giving you somewhat of a quick review of the Google Nexus 5 made by LG. You can pick this up on the Google Play Store online for $350, available in both black and white on the back. That's for the 16 gig model. For $50 more at $400 you could get double the capacity for 32 gigabytes. So I picked this one up on the Google Play Store about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I wanted to just play around with it for a couple of weeks and give you guys my opinion on it. So now I'd like to talk about the design and the hardware. The design I think is really fantastic. It looks good, it's simple, yet it's done right. They just didn't seem to overdo things here and there. To me, this is really a very minimalistic smartphone and it looks quite nice. On the back, it features sort of a soft touch, matte feeling cover to it. You have the Nexus logo here, LG branding, and some other things below that. One thing people criticized was that the camera was a bit big, which it obviously is. But to me, it really sets the phone apart from everything else by having this sort of a large camera area at the top. So I really do prefer that, and it looks quite nice to me. Around the other side of the phone, here we have our 5-inch display. I do have an anti-glare screen protector installed from Tech Armor. I did do a review on that a while back. So the screen is really nice. More on that in a little while. At the top of the phone, we do have an earpiece. That's the white area here in the middle. I think the black phone has a black earpiece, so the white phone has a white one. The sensors are over here to the right. Front-facing camera is right here to the left. At the bottom that you just saw, we do have an LED indicator for notifications and whatever else you might have set up on your device. On the left side, we do have our 2 volume buttons. They don't really offer too much of a click, but they do get the job done just fine. They don't rattle around or move around either, which is nice. The entire edge of the phone is glossy plastic, so it will show some fingerprinting here and there and probably some scratches, but I've been using this phone in a case, so I don't have any issues with any damage done to the side. It's very grippy though if you don't use this with a case. At the top of the phone, we do have a 3.5mm headset jack. We do have a little pinhole for a top microphone. Here on the back, of course, is the 8 megapixel rear-facing camera with LED flash. On the right side of the phone is where we'll find the power button, as well as our micro SIM tray. And at the bottom, we do have a speaker, micro USB port, and microphone. Both of these areas are not both speakers, so you don't get stereo audio. It's much like the iPhone, where one is the speaker, the other one is the microphone. More on the speaker in a little while as well. And that is pretty much it in regards to a general tour, but in terms of design, I really like it. It's simple, it's minimalistic, the phone itself is fairly light given its size, and it's not too big, especially given its 5-inch display. To me, the Galaxy S4 with its display, it's noticeably larger than this, and so is the HTC One. So I think, again, given this phone's screen size, the actual physical size of the phone is very respectable, and it's not that bad at all. So because it's a plastic phone, many people might think that it doesn't have very good build quality, but this phone feels really solid, especially once you put it into a basic TPU case. Everything just feels really solidly built, and I don't really have any problems with this phone lasting quite a long time. So the next thing I want to talk about is the display quality. So let me go ahead and unlock the phone real quick. And here it is. So I am using an anti-glare screen protector, which sort of reduces the clarity of the text and things that you see on the screen. But let me turn the brightness up a little bit. The screen itself is just gorgeous to look at. It has excellent viewing angles. You don't have to worry about that whatsoever. It doesn't matter which angle you're looking at the screen at. All the colors and everything will be remain accurate. And it just looks really dang nice. Without the screen protector or with a clear one, everything is just so sharp and crisp. It just looks really gorgeous. Outdoors, you can use it perfectly as well. No issues there. And the display is just really nice. I did leave the brightness down quite a bit though through most of my usage because that really does help increase your battery life. So right here it doesn't really look too bright, but when I'm actually looking at it myself it looks just fine, so it's not too bad. Next up is speaker network and call quality. So the speaker down at the bottom, honestly, I will say that it doesn't get very loud whatsoever. I honestly think that a software update could fix this because even when I'm listening to music through the headphone jack, if I have the volume up all the way, it still doesn't seem that loud. So I think that it's a software update, a software-wide issue where total volume output just isn't loud enough. So I think that a software update could really do fix that. So it is clear though when you are listening to things through it, but it just doesn't get very loud at all. I'm using this on T-Mobile, and I do have LTE access in my city, and it works just fine. In terms of general network connectivity and performance, there's no issues there. There are no issues there, rather. LTE performance is just fine. Their 4G HSPA Plus performance is really good as well. It just depends on where you are and what other network you might be on, whether it be AT&T or Sprint here in the US or whatever carrier around the world that you want to use this in, because this is an unlocked phone. An unlocked phone. Call quality is just fine, but doing speakerphone calls, not the greatest experience in the world because the speaker just doesn't get too loud. The earpiece, though, it does get very loud and it is pretty darn clear, so that's nice to hear. Next up, software and features. So this does run Google's Android 4.4 KitKat. That's the latest version. I could go ahead and bring up the little KitKat Easter egg over here. Just go to software version, and we have this, and there's more to it. There we go. Just have to tap and hold on the KitKat logo to get to this. The interface is a little bit different than Android 4.3. The icons are a little bit larger. Your app launcher here, it has sort of a transparent background, so you can still see your wallpaper a little bit. Android has really been improving over the years to make things simpler and more graphically pleasing, and Android 4.4 is definitely the best version of Android so far. Let me go ahead and turn the brightness up a little bit more. There we go. So I have a lot of the 4.4 features disabled. Most of the apps that came with the phone, like Google Play Magazines, Google Play Games, I disabled those. I disabled Google Now as well, and I also disabled the feature where you can say OK Google, and it brings you up to the Google interface at the top. That just uses battery, and honestly, I didn't use it too much. So on to performance for a little bit. This phone is blazing fast. Everything is really nice and smooth. I'm a bit of a performance junkie, so I can notice any stutter, I can notice frame rate drops and things like that. And this phone is smooth pretty much anywhere. It will have some issues with games that might not be better optimized for this version of Android or this particular hardware setup. But, I mean, everything is just so smooth and everything is just really fast. This is what the multitasking interface looks like. You could just close apps with ease. Can't do more than one at once though. You could just do one at a time. Gaming performance will vary a little bit, like I said. Depends on if the game is optimized or not. For example, Crazy Taxi definitely is not optimized because it's very sluggish, it's slow. Fun Run, I think, has general Android issues because the AV sync is off a little bit, so the sound effects are a little bit behind what they actually should be. But general performance is really good. This phone is definitely fast under pretty much anything you'd like to do. On a similar note, battery life. When I first got this phone and when I first started reading reviews, they said that the battery took a couple days until it actually got to acceptable levels, and that was definitely the case with me. So at first I was getting maybe 9 hours off the charger, 5 hours, 9 hours again. But after that, it really did kick up to 14 hours consistently as well. I will show you some screenshots of my battery life numbers, and it definitely did improve. So if you do pick this up, don't get too worried about battery life because it will hopefully get better. At least it did for me and pretty much everybody else who picked up the Nexus 5. So battery life, it's not the greatest in terms of smartphones, but it is generally pretty respectable. So you should be able to get through the entire day with the phone. And I'd say I'm about a moderate user, so I've got a lot of apps going in the background. Email checks itself every 15 minutes for 3 different accounts. The screen turns on whenever there's a notification. So the battery still goes through the entire day and then some. I also did some Wi-Fi only tests and some Wi-Fi off tests where I was using cellular data instead of Wi-Fi, and battery life was still pretty good. So definitely that's something good about this phone after a while, is that the battery gets much better than what it was out of the box. The camera could use an improvement, and there are supposedly software updates that should fix this, but the camera app, it's a bit slow, and it's not the fastest for focusing on things either. And when you're taking a photo, of course it had to turn the flash on. There it goes. You can see that it took a couple of seconds for the photo from the time I pushed the button to when it went over to the preview window. I didn't really do any video testing, but I did record a couple of small clips and it seemed fine. The bit rate from the video was pretty high, so there wasn't any compression, or at least nothing obvious. Audio quality could be increased a little bit. In terms of general photos though, they look okay. I mean, they're not going to be the greatest for a smartphone. That's really where Samsung and Nokia pretty much have the edge, or even the iPhone, of course. So the camera really isn't this phone's strong point, but it will probably get the job done just fine for most people. And really, that brings me to my ending comments about the Nexus 5. I think it's a fantastic phone. I had really high hopes for it, and the phone really did live up to what I was expecting and sort of the hype that surrounded the Nexus 5 leading up to the launch, because pretty much everything about this phone was leaked. We knew what the design was, we knew what the specs were going to be, and pretty much the pricing and everything else you could imagine. And the phone, I think, is fantastic. For $350 off contract, it's a great deal, although Motorola has their Moto G, which is not quite up to the Nexus 5 in terms of specs, but it's $100 and something cheaper, so that's something to consider. But the Nexus 5 is great. The display is really good. The battery life took a little while to get going, but it got up to levels to where I think most people will be happy with it. The speaker could definitely use an update. In general, volume output could definitely be a lot higher. The camera could use an update. I think that a lot of the issues that people might have with the Nexus 5 could be fixed with a software update, so hopefully Google is working on that. I'm sure they are. But the hardware, I really do like it. The design looks good. The phone feels good in your hands. There are plenty of accessories already available for it to pick up. So if you are looking to save some money for an off-contract phone, or if you just want something that gives you the pure vanilla Android experience and all the latest updates before most of the other phones get theirs, the Nexus 5 is obviously a no-brainer. It's pretty much a great phone. I'm going to go back to the iPhone 5 because I really do like having one-handed operation. Reaching the corners of the phone on the Nexus 5 is a bit difficult for me. Plus, I'm just too much into the Apple ecosystem. It's just really hard for me to leave it, so I'll just go back to the iPhone 5. But really, the Nexus 5 is a fantastic phone. You really can't go wrong picking it up. It could really only improve from here as well, so that's pretty much it with the video. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback about this or anything else, feel free to leave those down below in the comments area. But that's it with the video. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll talk to you all very soon.